It's a $1.5 trillion industry. It fuels parties, relieves stress, and is the most used drug in the world.
Everybody already knows what alcohol is. But where did it even come from in the first place?
3000 BCE. There are scriptures and documents that prove Egyptians were one of the first to drink alcohol, and ever since then it's been popular. In fact, there was more beer on the Mayflower than water.
Alcohol was so important to America that it had to be put in the amendments. Alcohol is the most normalized drug in the world. It is also the most advertised drug in the world. It's also the most deadly legal drug and is a top cause of preventable death. Over 3 million people die every single year from alcohol-related deaths.
The use of alcohol is promoted, and that makes it very easy to get addicted to. Alcohol also rewires your brain to crave it more. And this process usually sneaks up on people and causes addiction. Can you describe how alcohol abuse has impacted your life or the life of someone close to you?
I mean, that's a very loaded question, but it's also a very easy question. It almost killed me. It brought me to the point where my body was shutting down, and only by the grace of God and actually my brother putting me in a car and taking me off island and getting me into a treatment center saved my life. That's as big of an impact as you could possibly have. It took about 15 years or so to get to that point for my first drink, so it didn't happen overnight. Like I previously said, it's a progressive and it's a deadly disease, but when you're in active alcoholism, you don't recognize the damage that you do to your family, your friends, your coworkers, your community, all the people that are around you. You have blinders on to just how selfish and self-centered you are in your life, and it's not until you find recovery that you start to see how much wreckage you caused. The nights that your mother would stay up wondering if the next phone call was the one from the police saying you had an accident, or you're in jail, or not showing up to work and losing your job because you couldn't maintain just even not drinking one night to make it to work the next day. So not only is it impacts, it touches every part of your life eventually, and like I said in another previous question, it's going to completely impact you until you can make a choice and you can change. But it's far-reaching all the way across the board. Every single facet of your life it impacts, for sure.
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have about alcohol addiction?
In my experience, one of the biggest misconceptions people have is that when you have alcoholism and the places it brings you, that you have a choice.
Yeah.
And to a degree, it's true. You have the ability to make choices, and you do. And unfortunately, the longer you are in addiction with alcohol or any other substance, the less power you have over those choices. People say that there are, it's genetic, you're predisposed. There's myths that certain ethnicities are more prone to alcoholism than others. Certain, where you grew up, different cultures, whatever you say. But it's been my experience that, I've been in rooms with doctors and lawyers and carpenters and police officers and nurses, and it actually has no correlation on any certain group of people. It's a terrible thing to happen. It certainly wasn't something I expected in my life, but it evolves. It just doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a course of years, and it's slowly. It's a progressive disease, and it's a deadly disease, and that's exactly what it is. It is one of those things where you end up having to fight for your life towards the end.
Can you describe how alcohol abuse has impacted your life or the life of someone close to you?
Yeah, so I remember it was around 2 years ago now. I think a little more than 2 years ago, when I was getting notifications on my phone that a classmate of mine in high school was coming back from a party. I think it was for spring break, or maybe it was for winter break, and he had been in a car with like 6 other individuals, and the driver was driving under the influence and ended up killing, I think, everyone except for himself. So that included my classmate. So obviously he lost his life, which was heartbreaking. So now I'm older than he ever was, which is weird to think about. But so yeah, I mean, that is a harsh consequence of abusing alcohol. It's a very real occurrence, driving under the influence. So